everybody. I'm so intimidated. There are a lot of judges in the room. I think this might, I've been to campaign things and I don't usually go, oh, it's just me and the judges. Hi, judges. Let me turn all your mics on and introduce you. I am so excited to have you in today. Thank you very much. Joining us today, we have Doctor. I've upgraded you. You both have law degrees.
We're doctors of law, so that's fair.
Correct. We have with us Judge Chantel Porter. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And Judge Jennifer Barron also joins us. Hello, Judge.
Nice to be here.
This is so weird. Judge Lee. Is it Lee or Leah?
It's Leah.
Leah. Mm-hmm. I managed to do neither. None of the pronunciations. Leah.
Just like everyone else.
Leah?
You're good. It's Leah.
Jeez.
Princess Leah.
Princess Leah. Princess Leah. I like that. Judge Setson.
Yes.
Is that correct?
You got it.
See, that should be the harder one. Hi, judges. And I'm going to call you judges because it just seems appropriate because you've earned that. And so let me start. I don't know where to start. Who's been the judge the longest?
Chantel's number one.
Judge Chantel Porter. Hello. Where are you from originally, my friend?
Absolutely. So I am from Hanover Park, which is northwest suburbs of Illinois, born and raised there. They have family that's got really good connections to that part of the suburbs. And now I currently live in Addison, and I'm a kindergarten mom with a 6-year-old. So we were up last night doing the Valentines for the classroom.
I love that.
Absolutely, yes.
And so you grew up in Hanover. Sorry,
yes.
Hanover, not Hammond. That's wrong. I was an H. So you grew up in Hanover. What was there a point as a little girl that you knew what you wanted to do? Was this anywhere close to what you dreamt of when you were little?
It was almost exactly what I dreamt of when I was little. I know.
I just met an architect who said the same thing.
I come by it honest.
If you have the same answer, I'm kidding.
No, I was a unique little precocious child. So in 6th grade, in my yearbook, actually, I said I wanted to be an attorney that represented children. And then in high school, I definitely said I wanted to one day be on the Supreme Court. We're definitely not there yet, but so I've always knew this is what I wanted to do.
Was this like night court? No, you're too young for night court. Was this not LA Laws to Law and Order? What was it? Was it a book you read?
I was a reader,
yes,
so I was always reading. Yes, yeah. I was very influenced by people like Thurgood Marshall. You know, I grew up in a household where we learned civil rights, and we learned. I mean, my household, my mom drilled this into us, so we learned about our history. We learned about things like that. And then I have an uncle who's now has passed on. He's transitioned, but he was in Tennessee, and he was a judge, and he was one of the first African-American judges in that county in Tennessee. So I grew up with that, grew up with really, my parents just kind of instilled in me to have a voice. And my mom was a teacher for 30 years. This is just what they did. So I definitely knew that I wrote out my first appeal when I was it's sitting in my chambers. They've seen it. I wrote out my first appeal to try to get out of punishment when I was in middle school.
Okay.
Wow. I was that kid.
Okay. So, Mom, you hear this environment was a big key. My mom is she still thinks I should go to law school. Let's not get into it because
never too late.
I appreciate that, Judge Setson. Don't tell her that, though. That's remarkable. I really, I was reading Lost on the Prairie. So I wanted to learn how to grow corn. I don't know what that has. I knew how to get from the house to the barn in the blizzard. Anyway.
That's a good skill.
It is. Where'd you go to law school?
I went to DePaul, here in Chicago.
Nice. That's fantastic. So where'd you go for undergrad?
The Ohio State University.
Okay, so you have lived somewhere else, and you're like, I'm going back to Chicago. You're like,
yeah, 4 years in college, but then other than that, I've been here. This is home.
Well, fantastic. That's Judge Chantel Porter. And what's the district and what level?
Absolutely. So I'm a circuit court judge, which is the trial court, and I have the northeast part of DuPage County is mine, and I sit in juvenile court. Surprise, surprise. So I am the juvenile court judge. Mm-hmm. Nice. So I'm still advocating for our families and children in DuPage.
And do you have like a punch number for people that they should know what number that's going to be?
Yeah. So if you are in Sub-Circuit 1, what I will say is the judges are on the back of the ballot. So please flip over the ballot, so you will see me. You don't even have to worry about about a punch number. You will see me on right before the referendums that everybody's so excited about. So flip over the ballot and make sure you vote for the judges if you're in Subcircuit 1 in DuPage County.
Outstanding. Thank you, Judge Porter. And we have Judge Jennifer Barron. Hello. Where are you from originally?
So I grew up in Washington, D.C., but I moved to Naperville about 25 years ago. So I've been living in DuPage County.
I'm sorry, where'd you grow up?
Washington, D.C.
Okay, so you did this the other way around. I grew up in D.C., and you end up in Naperville. How did that happen?
I went to college in Chicago where I met my husband, and we moved out here for his job, or moved out to Naperville for his job.
Which college in Chicago?
I went to University of Chicago.
Oh, those are fancy. You're maroon.
I am a maroon.
I say that as a maroon bomb. So
very good.
It's interesting to go down to Hyde Park.
It is.
So when did you know at a young age you wanted to go to law school?
Well, I have two older brothers, so I grew up with a lot of arguing and a lot of striving to be heard. And we had both my parents are lawyers, so there was a constant debate at my house, and we were encouraged to always not just say what we wanted, but why.
Okay.
And so from a young age, it just seemed like that was where I was headed.
Outstanding. And so what from that path of getting your law degree, what did you set out to do? What was the initiative? What was the first type of law you practiced?
So I was a trial attorney, and I represented injured people or people who lost a loved one due to someone else's actions. I did briefly work at a big law firm where I actually met Judge Setson. Leah Setson and I worked together briefly, but for most of my career, I represented the little guy. I tried cases. I was a trial attorney for 10 years, trying cases in Chicago in front of juries. And then for the 15 years right before I was appointed as a judge, I was an appellate lawyer, which meant I argued in front of the appellate courts and the Illinois Supreme Court. So that's when you just review transcripts looking for mistakes judges made.
And that, is that something that the judges knew that you were doing?
Now that I'm a trial court judge, I see it from the other side.
Right.
But yeah, I think trial court judges do follow when they've been appealed. They do follow what's happened in the appellate court and how the appellate court decides. Not because of their egos necessarily, but as trial court judges, we're striving to get it right every day. We're interpreting the law and applying it to the facts. And if we get it wrong, we want to know, because sometimes things are unsettled and it's up to the appellate courts or the Illinois Supreme Court to tell us, hey, this is how the law needs to be interpreted. So we do follow it closely because we want to do the best job we possibly can for the people of our county.
It's such an interesting adventure, and I'll come back to a few things that you've both said. I also want to meet Judge Leah Setson.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us as well. So where are you from originally?
So I may be the only one who actually was born and raised and currently live in the same town, which is also Naperville.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And did you have any, when did it hit you? Tell me it was in college. Because if you were a little kid and knew you were going to be a lawyer, I'm walking out of this room. I'm kidding. It's okay.
So my dad, actually, he did go back to law school at night when I was a little girl. He was a college professor. So I saw him follow his dream. I don't know if that, I'm sure that influenced me.
Sure.
I wanted to be a lawyer from a young age. I wasn't as concrete as Judge Porter in terms of that path, other than I just knew I wanted to do it. Now, when I went to college, I tried everything but.
Really?
I thought maybe I want to be a journalist. I worked for I went to the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. So I worked
ILL.
INI.
All right, then.
So I worked for the Daily Illini. I did a variety of things. Ultimately, I was the opinions editor. So I thought maybe I wanted to go into journalism. My first journalism professor was so negative about I know. But actually,
it's the dream crushers I hate.
So my path it changed because I thought, if the professor's really not hot on this area, maybe I should follow something else.
Did the university know they had a journalism professor who's like, this job sucks. Whatever you do, don't do what I do. This is a mess.
Well, so he did influence me. I'm sure he has no idea. But
I had a professor who convinced me not to go to law school. I went to grad school for history because my professor was like, may I ask when you graduated?
I graduated undergrad in '97, and then I went on to law school at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign as well.
Which I heard is a great law school.
It is a great law school. I
should have just stayed. See, if I just stayed,
it all worked out because here we are.
It's fine. Not for my mom, but it's fine. No, I know Mommy's proud. So you studied at the University of Illinois, and what kind of law did you set out to do?
So I went to law school to be a prosecutor. I really,
all right,
which I did. I eventually was a prosecutor
and
juvenile
and I was a prosecutor.
But
then life happened. I had my first child, and so my path changed again. And
Sorry. There's a buzz. I'm trying to manage it so that everybody sounds good. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
So then I kind of did a couple things so that I could be flexible with my schedule and be home with my daughter for some of the time. And I sort of found myself doing family law. My parents weren't divorced. I had really no experience with anyone who got divorced. I had no idea what divorce involved, but I thought anything's better than what I was doing at the time.
Okay.
And I won't be specific so as not to offend anyone who practices in that area. So I started in family law, and I really found my calling, and I did that for 17 years until I took the bench, and now I sit in a family law courtroom because I requested to be there.
Can I ask you all, how cool is it to be able to say, when I took the bench?
It's kind of cool.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That's how long have you been a judge, Porter?
Over a little over a year.
That was a really weird way to say that. Judge, hey, Porter, how long have you been a judge? A little over how long?
A year.
A year.
Appointed in December.
And you've been the judge the longest.
Yes.
This is amazing. So you were appointed to the bench?
So, yes, Justice, the Illinois Supreme Court, when there's a vacancy on the circuit court, they have to fill the vacancy because you need people to work and make sure the courthouse is still functioning. So whenever there's a vacancy, they do appointments. The Illinois Supreme Court does appointments. So there was 3 vacancies. We were all appointed by the Illinois Supreme Court under the recommendation of Justice Mary Kay O'Brien. So that's how after her...
We love Mary Kay O'Brien.
We do.
Very, very exciting. Yes.
So after she won her seat, those vacancies became available, and she got busy doing appointments.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay, so a year for Judge Porter. Barron, how long have you been a judge?
Actually, 1 year tomorrow.
1 year tomorrow.
I was sworn in. And I just want to add, none of us knew Mary Kay O'Brien.
No, yeah.
I think it's important for your listeners to know that we were all appointed based on our qualifications, and she had a rigorous vetting process, and we were appointed after that, which was a little bit of a new day for DuPage County.
You bring up a good point. So was it blind? Is there a point where first they go through all your credentials, everything, your history, and things like that, and then do you have a in-person meeting, or is it all based on your background?
I didn't meet her until I was interviewed by a panel of people, and I didn't meet her until after all that.
Wow. All right, then, Judge Setson, how long have you been on?
Let's see, 10 months.
Okay.
So it was 1, 2, 3. We were about 4 months apart. And so for Judge Barron and I, there was an open application process. So there was an advertisement posted through the Bar Association. At least that's how I applied. Maybe, I don't know, there was an open application process for the positions. So attorneys were all invited, who lived in the area, were invited to apply. And then they, just like any job, applicants apply, they pick the ones who they want to interview further. So there was a whole series of interviews, and ultimately we were each selected we were the final person who sort of survived all of that process, and we were each appointed.
All right, I'm going to start with you and go this way this time. So in the time you've been a judge, what has surprised you the most? Would you say? Some people have said it, because I've had the pleasure of interviewing mostly Cook County judges. It's fascinating to me. They all seem to love their job, from what I've heard. Especially like my friend Judge Mary Dempsey. I could go through a few of them, but it's remarkable to me in that aspect. They've told me about the training that you go through is kind of interesting. But and I know you don't want to talk about specific cases, right, but are there anything that jumps out at you that surprises you as a judge?
So I was a trial attorney for almost my entire career, and it's one thing to advocate for your client, advocate for a position, and ultimately see what the judge does. Now I'm the judge, and I have to do. And in the area that I'm in, it's very fact based. So it's not always straightforward. In divorce cases, it's kind of listening and then deciding and trying to be fair and equitable. And I think the hardest part is being the one who actually has to decide.
Right.
And like Judge Barron said, wanting to make sure that we're doing it based upon the law and we're doing it right. So that's, of course, we all know that sort of
intuitively.
Yes,
sure.
But when you actually have to be the one to do it, it feels different. And it's such a responsibility that I think that we all take it very seriously. I know I do, and I know my colleagues do as well.
Is there sort of have you found a technique for you to sort of like go, okay, that was my day, that stays in the courtroom or in my chambers? I don't know if
do it chambers. Right, yes.
Yeah.
We call it that too.
I've watched enough television.
There you go.
It's just like TV.
I believe it. Are you able to? Have you found a place to? Are there techniques that you use? Meditation, taking a walk, anything in particular?
So I will say that my practice as a family law attorney, I had to do that early on.
Okay.
Because I was dealing with people's lives, their children, their finances. How am I going to survive after this? And so if you cannot separate yourself, you really can't be an effective advocate, and even more so as a judge. You have to be able to be impartial and not take it home with you. I love to exercise. I've done it my whole adult life, and mostly for that mental release. So I really try and do that as much as I can.
Outstanding. And Judge Barron, what would you say? Is there something that you've had? Now you've all had a chance to think about it. Judge Setson got sort of, she's like, what? This is surprising to me.
She did great.
Yes.
The biggest surprise to me was how. So we're all have different backgrounds: juvenile, family law, civil litigation. Most of the judges in DuPage County, their background is criminal. So most of the judges there are former prosecutors, but career prosecutors, or a few public defenders. So, but most of the courts, not all the courtrooms are criminal. So you've got judges that didn't practice in the area that they're in the courtroom of now. And so that was really interesting to me. I'm in law division. There's 7 judges in law division. Only 2 others had a background doing civil litigation. So that was really interesting to me. The 3 of us, each brought something really new to the courthouse that was very needed. Nobody ever had a background like Chantel, juvenile court, and she was a GAL and so forth, and divorce, and then what I'm doing as a former plaintiff's attorney. So we're really adding something that was very needed, and I was kind of surprised that there wasn't more diversity of experience on the bench.
Wow. And do you have the same sort of, do you have a technique for separating what happens during the course of your day and going home to your family?
I think it's like Leah said, as practitioners, we already had to do that. So it's really not that different from how it was in practice now that we're on the bench.
It's incredible. And yourself, Judge Porter?
Right. So my call is really interesting. As the juvenile court judge, I hear all matters of juvenile justice, so minors under 18 years old who have caught doing crimes. And then I also do all the child protection cases. So these are families that are involved with DCFS.
Right.
So my call is very, very unique. The interesting thing about being a judge is I've had a lot of jobs in that courtroom prior to being a judge. I was a public defender. I was actually supervisor of the juvenile division of the public defender's office. So I represented parents in those scenarios and kids in the juvenile justice scenarios. I was a guardian ad litem, so I've represented children in foster care and things of that nature. So having played different roles within that courtroom and now being the judge in that courtroom, I really have good insight on how all the players work together. And juvenile court's supposed to be non-adversarial, right? We're supposed to work towards the best interest of the child, trying to figure out what these families need, whether it be mental health, substance abuse, domestic violence, all the traumas sometimes that these families are going through that bring them into the court system. We're kind of a problem-solving court. And so coming to it with a lens that not everything is quite as it seems, and maybe there's something else under the surface that's going on with this family that they need the support that we can offer them. So I definitely come to it from that lens, and definitely realizing that families are just going through so much right now, and as much support that we can give them and things that we can try to do to uplift our children and uplift our families, to really make sure that the court process is supporting them and not harming them.
Right. That's it has to be fascinating. I'm fascinated by the fact that all of you were in a lot of these courtrooms and now get to be on the other side of that, having seen all the moving parts. Did you? Well, I'll come back because we have to take a break here. But do you have a decompression technique? Sort of leaving the day behind you?
So I think I really like to just maybe kind of be by myself in those moments. My family is great. I have a little one, so I don't get to. I have the youngest kid out of all of us, so I don't get to decompress that much. I just turn on mommy mode, and
the voice. Hey,
yes,
it's the weirdest thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you ever caught yourself doing that to people in the course of your day? Hey,
Well, I sometimes when I forget that I can't call the children like, sweetie, or, I'm like, oh, nope, so it's very hard for me not to kind of see, because I am a mom, and that doesn't leave you. And I think it enhances my practice and how I see things, but it's definitely a part of who I am.
I guess because sometimes when I have to come home from a long day, I will sit out in my car way longer than I need to, whether it's
you sit in your driveway and don't don't enter the car, or don't enter the house.
Yeah.
No.
And one day I was in my car. I don't know if I ever told you guys this. I was in my car and I looked up in the rearview mirror. The mom next door was in her car behind me.
Solidarity.
Hilarious. Right.
Yeah.
You winked at each other?
Yeah, we winked at each other. She had a little bit, I could smell what she was doing in her car. And I was like, get it, sister, whatever. Yeah, there was smoke coming out of her car. So I'm like, oh, can I sit in your car? This is amazing. We are hanging out with 3 judges. We need a name for this sitcom. I feel like it's like Night Court. I don't know why they came back. They could have done this as a show. We have in studio with us, we have Judge Chantel Porter, we have Judge Jennifer Barron, and Judge Leah Setson. And she must hate that. Every time someone says her name, they have to reiterate that they're saying it the right way. Leah.
Saying it twice. That's
right. And they are all up for election because they were all appointed. So now they are running for election. There's a primary coming up in DuPage County. And will this? So you said you were only on parts of DuPage County. So before we go to the break, what district for you?
So I'm Subcircuit 1, which would be like the Bensonville, Wooddale, Addison, Villa Park, Glendale Heights area of DuPage.
Thank you.
I'm Subcircuit 2, so that's parts of Naperville, Aurora, Warrenville, Winfield, and West Chicago.
And Judge?
And I'm number 3, so parts of Naperville, Lisle, Westmont, Downers Grove, Darien, Oakbrook, Woodridge.
Excellent. Your honors, I appreciate it. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation. Listeners, if you have a question or something you want to say, 773-763-9278. Texting right now might be the easiest because I really kind of want to talk to the judges. Just saying, not for nothing. But I wouldn't, if it looks interesting, I might be able to grab your call. More after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. Thank you for hanging out with us.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez on WCPT 820.
Sorry, I'm just, me and Judge Barron are talking about our kids, and I am so spoiled to have him in town. I really, it's a lot of fun. And I know Judge Porter it was Valentine's Day for your kindergartner.
Yes.
It's exciting. A lot of, is there going to be, do you think he came home with a lot of sugar?
I'm positive he came home with a lot of sugar.
All 3 of us are moms. So let me start again with Judge Setson. We've talked a little bit about the influences in our lives and what strikes me in all of this and what I've been thinking about on a larger scale when it comes to the arguments that we have in relation to policy and laws in our country, it really does come down to being able to convince somebody to make that argument. And how does that relay in your relationship with your kids? Like, have you also passed that along with, like, if you want to make your point, because we're at a moment in our country where, like, if you don't believe what I do, well, screw you. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, my daughter maybe is following in Judge Porter's footsteps a little. Oh. So she's 20 now, but when she was in elementary school, so her dad and I had a random rule that she couldn't get her ears pierced until I forget what age, maybe 13, because I had a bad experience when I had my ears pierced as a younger child. And so she had an assignment for school. It was take a position or argue a position paper kind of. And so she wrote us a letter why she believed that was an arbitrary ruling. She filed a motion to reconsider when she was in 4th or 5th grade. This is true. Mm-hmm. And she did convince me, and I'm hard to convince. She always says that I'm the strictest mom of her friends, and I don't really think I am, but so be it. Amazing. But she did, and so she got her ears pierced at maybe it was 10, and no problem. So she started early.
That's outstanding, and I am also struck in these stories to Judge Barron because you mentioned, or somebody mentioned before we came on the air, that a third of the judges are still only women.
Less than a third, yeah.
Less than a third. So tell us about the importance and the value that a mom brings, and believe me, as a woman in general, but as a mom on the bench, like what the distinction you kind of see throughout your career and now as a judge.
So one thing I do in my courtroom is on Fridays we have settlement conferences. So parties that want to try and resolve the case come in, and the judge assists and meets with the parties separately and tries to resolve the case. And I always I feel like I've been very lucky, and I've settled a lot of cases, and I really think the reason is because I'm a mom of 2 kids. So if you have 2 kids and you're a mom, you've spent all that time. My kids are 20 and 22. I've spent 22 years working things out between 2 people who did not agree, but had to,
and were unreasonable,
and were sometimes unreasonable. And you sit and you listen and you talk and you go through it, and at the end of the day, you come to a resolution. So I do think that's a great asset I bring to my role.
I love it. And as a mom of the youngest child, I mean, because we've gotten to the point where we no matter how much you think you're going to have it figured out, something is going to surprise you in the course of a day. I mean, so how much has being a judge changed you as a mom? Actually, I guess is the other question.
Well, it's interesting because we do a lot more like negotiating because now he is older, he understands what I do, and so there's lots of Mom, let's make a deal. Can I get 6 more minutes to stay up? And I'm just like, you're not in a position to negotiate until you brush your teeth. You are not in, you have to bring something to the table. So we definitely do a lot more negotiating, and I sometimes catch myself I think I'm rationalizing with a 6-year-old, and sometimes I have to remind myself that I actually am the mother, and I'm like, I don't have to justify you brushing your teeth, right? I don't have to negotiate this.
I do remember those moments where I would he would come and have poop on his hand, right? Because it wasn't a thing as a toddler, and I'd be like, did I really get a college degree for this moment in my life? Is this what it's all come down to? So you are the first Black woman to serve as a judge in DuPage County, and that in and of itself is an astounding thing to say, and yet remarkable. And congratulations to you and everyone who, because it does matter. I will tell you, I just told this story yesterday. I was at an event, and I don't know if it seems as though you have a great network and relationship with your fellow judges. I was at an event with comedians, and a woman told a story about the struggles she was going through about 15 years ago. And when she finally got onto solid ground, she went to a comedy show and saw me and decided that's what she needed to do with her life. And that's what all of you bring to your positions is being that example in your communities to families around you. What do you say to parents or to somebody? You just mentioned it's never too late to pursue your dream. If someone's thinking about a career in law, what do you want to tell them?
Well, I definitely say, follow your dreams, work hard. And I think somebody once said that, when you see something, you believe that you can be it. And I think, the goal, I never, I was an attorney, I was practicing law, and I remember watching the confirmation hearings of Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. And I remember watching, her get sworn. And mind you, I was an attorney at the time. I was not a judge. And tears were streaming down, and I just thought to myself, I could be this. Now, I'm not saying I could be on the Supreme Court.
You absolutely can be.
You see it, you believe it.
But exactly. I'm thinking, what a moment in time, and it was just so impactful for me. And little did I know that was the summer. By that fall, I would be on the bench. And here I was watching history with no idea that very shortly I would be making my own history. And nobody, and I think Justice Jackson said this. Nobody sets out to be the first. The goal is to make sure that others are following behind you, and make sure that path is easier for them, and make sure that they see what you've done and bring them forward. So that's always what I'm here to do, is just make sure that other people see that this path is available to them. But also we need a justice system and a court that reflects our community, the diversity of our community, the people, the vibrancy, the differences of our community. When you walk into a courthouse and everybody you see and nobody looks like you do feel like an outsider. And if that one person, that one child, that one family that maybe comes in and sees me on the bench and maybe takes a little bit sigh of relief because maybe they feel like, that somebody is going to listen to them and give them this opportunity and not prejudge them and give them the chance to be heard, that's what's really worth it, because people really just want that opportunity to be heard and treated equally.
I think so many people say that, and they say that in every aspect of their lives. I want to be heard, whether it's at work, but we also are hearing that when we talk about voters. I want to take a break here because I want to talk about some of the issues that are being legislated and then being basically argued in your courtrooms or the things that you're seeing in our state. I know that we talked briefly in the hallways about some of the things that may come to your courts and maybe not because of the types of cases that you guys see. But it is a part of, people want to know if they're voting for a judge, and you might have another job down the road. You might get an appointment. Things change. we want to know that it's important to invest in judges like you. Again, we're going to take a break right now. We are hanging out with Judge Chantel Porter, Judge Jennifer Barron, and Judge Leah Setson, making sure I say that part correctly as well. More when we come back on Driving It
From TuneIn.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez on WCPT 820.
This may go down as one of my favorite shows I've ever done here. I'm just saying. I'm so thrilled to be in studio with not one, not two, but three judges. Judge Jennifer Barron, Judge Leah Setson, and Judge Chantel Porter, all running for election in DuPage County. And there's a primary coming up. What day is it?
March 19th, but early voting has already started.
So it's mail-in voting is
yes, and ballots went out.
In person and mail-in.
Oh, in person is starting.
Yes.
Oh, at the larger polling places.
Correct.
Right? The
county.
Yes, right. So then I believe in Chicago it's March 4th is when more locations will open up,
and that's the same in DuPage.
Excellent. It's March 4th, folks. So there you go. Go vote right now.
That's
you have
right.
time. What time do they close? Do you think is it
4:30?
Oh,
okay. They can vote tomorrow morning, 8 a.m.
Tomorrow. Remember, it's Porter, Barron, and Setson, folks.
Turn the ballot over.
Turn the ballot over.
Start in the back.
Only one of us will be on your ballot, depending on where you live.
Yeah. Exactly. But look for those first. And Jim wants to say something. Hey, Jim in Chicago, what do you want to say to our judges?
Hi, Patti and your guest. Does anybody imagine a time where there'll be they'll be able to sue over the ammunition if you're shot, or there'll be some liability for the product of a gun or a lethal gun or lethal ammunition, or you'll have to take out an insurance policy so that your gun is tracked and your ammunition is tracked if somebody's paralyzed or
right.
disabled
Judge,
from a shooting.
Hold on a second, Jim. I do want to tell you, Judge. I told Jim. I have so many judges in here. Jim, I want to tell you. I was telling the judges you're probably going to call and say how impressed you were, and then go on with your question. But you went right in with the question without the compliment, and I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm being honest with you because I know that you're impressed by them. I'm just saying.
I apologize for that, but I know that. But I know that. I mean, it's got to be in the next 50 years. We've got to have liability for these guns.
Okay, let me.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jim. I'm gonna roll you down and ask that question to each one of the judges. Does it sound good, or in a way? Thank you, Jim. Okay, so let's start with Judge Setson. So, I mean, it's not that we don't have to because that we're speculating and things like that. It is the Second Amendment that we often talk about, and I know that you've probably gone over this, the way it's worded and what the founding fathers intended and all these different things. So, what is the responsibility of a judge in Illinois when it comes to legislation that has been voted on and signed by the governor?
So, when each of us were sworn into our position, we took an oath to uphold the laws of the state of Illinois and the Illinois and United States Constitution. Constitution. That's a hard word to say. And that's what we do every day.
Right.
So, and we live in a state that has laws that protect its citizens.
Right.
And so we're sworn to uphold those, and we're happy to uphold those laws.
And speculating about things like insurance and when it comes to ammunition and things like that sounds like something that because of the way it is, our judicial system is structured, I mean, that's something that had to be a case that's brought by somebody else, right, Judge Barron?
Yeah, so I used to handle products liability cases, so it's a good question for me. I think what Jim's getting at is a legislative issue. So if our legislature chose to pass a law that held ammunition manufacturers liable or required them to have some kind of tracking, then and that passed, then that is a law that would exist, and then a case could come before us on that law.
Right.
We as judges can't create a law like that. So I think there's a lot of people who have great ideas similar to Jim's, and I think the legislature is looking at things like that right now, and I know some other states have passed laws like that, and then they ultimately go up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and we all know how our U.S. Supreme Court currently is ruling on those types of cases. But all those cases do begin at circuit courts, at trial courts. So every case you see on the Second Amendment that the U.S. Supreme Court is ruling on begins at a trial court. So you want to have judges on the trial court level who represent your values. And we all believe in respecting the current laws in Illinois And the U.S. Constitution and our Illinois state constitution right now has passed some great, important laws to keep us safe in our schools and our neighborhoods. We were talking about the Highland Park shooting a little while ago. And after that, we all know that Illinois passed assault weapons ban, and that has gone through the courts and it currently is upheld, and the U.S. Supreme Court did not strike that down. But, we're always one judge away from having things in jeopardy.
Right. Does it, when you see, I don't know how much do you follow the news in what's going on in other states, and just I can't imagine being a judge and seeing what happens in places like Texas, whether it's about guns or abortion rights. And because, again, those judges in their position are going by, as we talked about, the legislation of the state. And in your courtroom, Judge Porter, you're in juvenile court. Do you probably, I would imagine, see the effects of gun violence in families and with our youth?
So, the thing about being a judge is we have the laws and what's written down in the books, but we also understand the human impact of those laws, and we also understand the human impact of what people are going through. We mentioned earlier, today, this day in 2008, my sister was at Northern Illinois University during that school shooting, and I know as a family member what it felt like to be worried for over 3 hours as she was in the building next door, hidden in a coat closet with the door locked and a chair pushed up against the door with two of her other classmates. And when you go through something like that, you realize that although these laws are written in black and white, there's real human impact behind how we're protecting our citizens, and what those laws mean when they're applied correctly, and what those laws mean when they're trying to make sure that our kids are safe and our streets are safe. And when I see young people who are before me and they're either victims of gun violence or for some reason are in a life situation where they have had access to guns, you really start to think about what are we doing as a community on that level to make sure that we are protecting our families, protecting our kids, and really understanding what that human impact is on the things that we do and the decisions we make in upholding those laws, and how that impacts those in our community.
I want to live in DuPage. Rick Geezer, the silent candidate for commissioner of the DuPage Forest Preserve, has graciously brought to my attention these incredible judges who are running in DuPage County. So I've got 30 seconds for each of you to do your pitch to our audience as we wrap up here. Judge Setson?
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me, Patty. I just want to say that everyone who lives in my area, I have the experience. I have the service to community. I've lived there all my life. I'm dedicated. I asked to be in the courtroom that I'm in because I want to continue to help the people of DuPage County go through the toughest times of their lives. And having a judge, as Judge Barron said, having a judge who actually has that background. I have also a personal background, and I'm actually a divorced parent as well. I get it. And I think that people want to have that person sitting at the bench who understands and is going to listen to them, and that's me.
And your website?
Judge Setson, SETZEN.com.
Outstanding. Judge Barron.
Yeah, I think I'm the best choice to remain on the bench in my sub-circuit. I have the endorsement of all the elected Democrats in our area, as do both my colleagues here and 9 labor unions. When I sit in a trial court handling civil litigation. That's what I did for 25 years as a lawyer. I also did pro bono work for the Giffords Law Center Against Gun Violence, actually, speaking of gun violence, and also for Prairie State Legal Services. And that's important because it shows that I've always cared about representing the little guy, making sure everyone's voice is heard, everyone's treated with respect in the courtroom. I did that as a lawyer, and I do it as a judge. And I think that's really the most important thing that we're looking for in our judges.
Outstanding. And your website?
JudgeJenniferBarron.com. That's BARRON.
Judge Porter?
I would just like to say that, experience matters, qualifications Understanding the law matters, having a passion for what you're doing matters, and really understanding how what you do impacts our community. Having a reflection of our diverse and vibrant community on the bench matters. And so I think my choice in being on the bench and the selection from the Illinois Supreme Court and the confidence that I have from all the Democratic leaders in my community who have endorsed me, the labor unions who have endorsed me, Personal PAC who has endorsed me and has endorsed us all, really just shows that we are committed to our community. We're committed to looking at things in a way that really is benefiting everybody, looking at everybody with equality, with fairness, that nobody is above the law. And I know we see that a lot. Nobody is above the law.
Thank you.
And the law should be applied fairly to everyone. And everybody should walk into that building and feel like they are going to be heard and respected.
And your website?
www.judgechantelle.com. CHANTELLE.com.
I look forward to following this race, and I look forward to seeing you all again. On behalf of so many people who I know are like-minded, we congratulate you. We are proud of you, and I'm thrilled to have met you, and I want to do it again. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you for having me.